Hi there, my name is Gary Friedman and welcome to the Friedman Archives blog. In this video, I'm going to do a quick follow-up of the tutorial I made a while ago on the A-mount to E-mount adapters, specifically the LA-EA1 through the LA-EA4. While the question of which one to choose was once simple and straightforward, autofocus advances within the body made the choice much more nuanced. But two questions kept coming up after that video was made. The first one, how well do the odd number adapters, that's the ones without the SLT guts, the LA-EA1, LA-EA3, how well do those adapters do with shooting movies? And more specifically, how do they hold up using the advanced tracking abilities on the modern E-mount cameras? So, let me answer those questions right now. To demonstrate, I have here an Alpha 6400 whose autofocus tracking ability is so good that Sony's flagship camera, the Alpha 9, had to have a firmware update just to catch up with its capabilities. The first question is, can the PDAF that's baked right into the sensor work when taking video? And do they work when you choose a different f-stop? Something that the normal even number adapters won't allow. So, the short answer is it depends entirely on which camera that you're using. I'm going to show you right now. On the Alpha 6400, let me take my LA-EA3 full frame. I'll show you why in a second. And I'm going to take my artillery shell of a lens. This is the Zeiss 24-70 f2.8 for the A-mount. A great companion to the Sony Alpha 99 II. So there we go. Now, when we're just shooting stills, all the tracking features, they work just great. Now, what about when you're shooting movies? Well, let's move this over to movie mode. There we go. Now, here's something you can't see because the HDMI cable is actually connected to the camera, so you can't see it on the screen capture, but the camera has gone to complete manual focus mode. You have to do this. And again, if the HDMI cable is not plugged in, then you can also use the peaking level and peaking colors so you can see the splotches of yellow show up. I can see it here on the back of my display. You can't see it over there. Oh well, what happens if you press the shutter release button halfway? Nothing. It's completely inert. The Alpha 9, it turns out, where is it? The Alpha 9, turns out, behaves exactly the same way. But I also happen to have here Alpha 7R3. How does that one hold up? Well, let's have a look. So I'll put the lens and adapter back on. And here we are in exposure mode. Dial is set to movie. And here we go. Now, nothing actually happens. But if you press the shutter release halfway on this camera, it will try its very best to focus on something using contrast detect AF. As you can see, it's slow and it's clumsy. And if you actually did this while shooting a live video, it would be very distracting. Maybe that's why they disabled the feature in the Alpha 9 and the Alpha 6400. Hard to say. And what about if you want to shoot at a smaller f-stop? Something that normally the A-mount cameras won't allow with autofocus when shooting movies. Let's try it. So I hit the function button. While the exposure mode dial is set to movie, I have this in the lower right hand corner. That's the movie exposure mode, and I can choose between program auto, shutter priority, and manual. Let's go to aperture priority. Did I say auto? Excuse me. Aperture priority, and let's set right now the f-stop is set to 7.1. Let's see what happens now. It's trying its best to autofocus, but it's very difficult for it to do, considering the fact that the f-stop is rather small. I made a video about how difficult it is for the E-mount to focus with everything stopped down, but at least it makes an attempt in movie mode. Is that useful to you? I don't know. If I were a filmmaker, I think I'd still want to do everything manually. The next test involves the A6400's most refined features, the focus tracking, the subject tracking, and the IAF. Are there any downsides to using an LA-EA3 or LA-EA1 and an A-mount lens? This is the same Zeiss lens we talked about earlier. And I'm going to point this at something nondescript, and you can now see there's a new icon over there. It's the green square with two lines on either side. That means I found my subject and I'm going to track it. And it does a pretty gosh darn good job. And the same heuristics that were used for autofocus before are in use here. It'll focus on whatever's closest unless it finds a face. in which case it'll zero in on the face. And without me having to press any buttons now, if it finds an eye in that face, it'll zero in on that. Portrait photographers love this because everybody knows that whenever you're looking closely, you're pixel peeping at a portrait, you always look at the eyes. Can you count the eyelashes? That's just not a photographer thing. Even babies understand when you're looking for somebody, you are looking at the eyes. And this is working just as quickly as if it were a native E-mount lens. So that's really great. So I think that clears up the 2 remaining questions that the first video didn't make. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget, ebooks. Bye.